Hey, Duck YouTube, welcome back to a new video with Rams fan YT. In today's video, we are going to Oxford, home of its famous university there, and the lovely river which runs through it. But that's not why we're looking over there in the Thames Valley area. Instead, we're looking at the football club of Oxford United. Well, were actually formed as Headington, you see, in 1893, adding the suffix United in 1911 after they merged with a club called Headington Quarry. The club was actually founded by Reverend John Scott Tucker. He was the vicar at St Andrew's Church in Headington, and a local doctor also was part of the founding, named Robert Hitchings. A football team really was a way for the cricketers of Headington Cricket Club to maintain their fitness during the winter break, as so many clubs were formed from. And the club's first football match played was against Cowley Barracks. Headington had no regular home until 1913, when they were able to purchase Wooton's Field on London Road. But this was redeveloped in 1920, which forced the club to move. A permanent home was found in 1925 when they purchased the Manor Ground site also on London Road. The facility was used as a cricket pitch in the summer and a football pitch in the winter. In 1899, 6 years after their formation, Headington United had joined the Oxfordshire District League Second Division, where they competed until the outbreak of the First World War. The second division was renamed the Oxfordshire Junior League after the resumption of football in 1919. In 1921, the club was admitted into the Oxon Senior League. The first season included a 9-0 victory, with 8 of those goals coming from P. Druitt. This remains a record, really, for the highest numbers of goals scored by an Oxford player in a first-team match. At this time, a small rivalry began to exist with Cowley Football Club, who were based a few miles south of Headington. During a league game on May Day, the referee gave 2 penalties to Cowley, and supporters broke past security and players, resulted in the referee being freely abated. The first FA Cup tie played was in 1931 against Hounslow Football Club in the preliminary round, ending in an 8-2 defeat for Headington. United spent 2 seasons in the Spartan League in 1947 and 1948, finishing 4th and 5th respectively. It was around this time that the cricket club left the manor to move to new premises near Cowley Barracks. A move into professional football was first considered, you see, during the 1948-49 season, with Vic Cooling, the president at the time, and had applied for Headington to become a member of the new second division in the Southern League. Other teams that applied including Weymouth, Kettering Town, and future league side Cambridge United. Although the plans were postponed, the first division was going to be expanded by 2 clubs, with Weymouth and Headington being elected. It was later discovered that Clonetclally had just 1 vote fewer than Headington. Oxford played its first season in the Southern League in 1949. The same year, they also turned professional. Former First Division forward Harry Thompson was hired as manager. In 1950, Headington United became the first professional club in Britain to install floodlights, and used them on the 18th of December against Banbury Spencer, which is now known as Banbury United. They initially played in orange and blue shirts, but changed to yellow home shirts for the 1957-58 season. The reason for the change is unknown. In 1960, Headington United was renamed Oxford United to give the club a higher profile. 2 years later, in 1962, the club won the Southern League title for the second successive season, and thus was elected for Football League 4th Division, occupying the vacant place left by bankrupt Accrington Stanley. 2 successive 18th place finishes followed, before promotion to the 3rd Division was achieved in 1965. A year before promotion, Oxford became the first 4th Division club to reach the 6th round of the FA Cup, but have not progressed that far in the competition since. Oxford won the 3rd Division title in 1967-68, their 6th season as a league club, but after years of relative stability, the club was relegated from the 2nd Division in 1975-76. In 1982, as a 3rd Division side, Oxford United faced a closure because of the club's inability to service the debts owed to Barclays Bank, but were rescued when businessman Robert Maxwell, which I know as a Derby fan all too well about, not a great guy really, took over the club. In April 1983, Maxwell proposed merging Oxford United with neighbours Reading to form a new club called the Thames Valley Royals. As you can tell, that was controversial and was not successful at all, and everybody seemed to really hate it. And they proposed to play at Didcot. Jim Smith would have managed the club and been assisted by Reading boss Maurice Evans. The merger, though, was called off as a result of both fans of both clubs protesting against the decision. Furthermore, the Reading chairman stepped down and was replaced by an opponent of the merger. Maxwell also threatened to fold the club if the merger did not go through. Oxford won the 3rd Division title, though, after the 1983-84 season, under the management of Jim Smith. Absolute great guy. He did well with Derby in later years, obviously. Who also guided them to the 2nd Division title the following year. This meant that Oxford United would be playing 1st Division football in the 1985-86 season, 23 years after joining the Football League, which is pretty quick, to be fair. Smith, though, moved to Queen's Park Rangers shortly after the promotion success and made way for chief scout Maurice Evans, who several seasons earlier had won the 4th Division title with Reading. Oxford United finished 18th in the 1985-86 First Division, avoiding relegation on the last day of the season after defeating Arsenal 3-0. They also won the Football League Cup, known at the time as the Milk Cup, under a sponsorship deal. As winners, Oxford would have qualified for the following season's UEFA Cup, but had it not been, though, for the ban on English teams that had resulted from the previous year's Haysall Stadium disaster. After beating fellow First Division side Aston Villa in the semi-final 4-3 on aggregate, Oxford faced Queen's Park Rangers in the final, obviously against former manager Jim Smith, which was held at Wembley Stadium on the 20th of April 1986. The game finished 3-0 with goals from Trevor Hebard, Ray Horton and Jeremy Charles. After the match, long-serving physiotherapist, 72-year-old Ken Fish, collected one of the winners' medals instead of Maurice Evans. Evans felt that Fish deserved the medal for his service to the club, and so gave him his, in what was seen as an unprecedented gesture. It was the last time the League Cup was played under the name of a Milk Cup, although some people still call it that. Sponsors Littlewoods took over the following season. The 1986-87 season saw Oxford United narrowly avoid relegation and stay in the First Division. Robert Maxwell resigned as chairman in May 1987 to take over at Derby County, handing the club to his son Kevin. Maurice Evans was sacked in March 1988, with Oxford bottom of the First Division. Former Liverpool defender Mark Lawrenson was named as Oxford's new manager, but was unable to prevent relegation to the Second Division. He was sacked 3 months into the 1988-89 Second Division campaign after a dispute with the chairman over the £1 million sale of striker Dean Saunders to Derby County. But thank you very much for him anyhow. He did very well when he played for Derby. Derby were owned by Robert Maxwell, father of the then Oxford United manager, or Oxford United chairman rather, Kevin Maxwell. So it's little wonder why this came about. And following Robert Maxwell's death in 1991, his personal estate, including the club, became insolvent. After a long search for a new owner, during which Biomass Recycling Limited took over the club, Brian Horton was named as Oxford's new manager. If you want to see what happened on the Derby side, feel free to go and watch the history of your club of Derby County. He remained in charge until September 1993, when he moved to Manchester City in the recently formed FA Premier League. Horton led United to mid-table finishes during his management spell, apart from a 21st place finish at the end of the 1991-92 season. A 2-1 win over Tranmere Rovers and a win for Blackburn Rovers over Plymouth Argyle meant United survived relegation by 2 points. Oxford, now in the renamed Football League Division 1, briefly restored Maurice Evans as manager, before turning to Bristol City manager Dennis Smith. Despite Smith's effort, Oxford were relegated to Division 2 at the end of the 1993-94 season, with just 4 wins in the last 11 games. Dennis Smith brought in 2 strikers who were experienced in the top division. It was Southampton's Paul Moody and Nottingham Forest's Nigel Jensen. Oxford finished 7th in the 1994-95 season, and in the following season gained promotion by finishing runners-up to rival Swindon Town, despite not winning an away game till the end of January. Robin Hurd, co-owner of the March Racing team, took control of the club in 1995. In the June of that year, the board of directors unveiled plans for a new 16,000-seat stadium at Minchery Farm to replace the dilapidated Manor Ground. The club had hoped to move into a new stadium near Blackbird Leys housing estate by the start of the 1998-99 season, but construction was suspended during the preceding season because construction company Taylor Woodrow had not been paid for the work already undertaken. The 1996-97 season saw Oxford finish 17th and included the sale of Scottish and international defender Matt Elliott to Leicester City. Despite Smith's departure to West Bromwich Albion in December 1997, United finished 12th the following season under his successor and former captain Malcolm Shotton. Shotton was previously the assistant manager of the Barnsley side that gained promotion to the Premier League. During October 1998, the backroom staff at the club went unpaid due to United's financial situation with the stadium, and the threat of administration caused a group of fans to set up a pressure group called Fighting for Oxford United's Life, or FOUL. The group began to publicise the club's plight through a series of meetings and events, including a Scarf of Unity, which was a collection of scarves from various clubs which was long enough to stretch around the perimeter of the pitch. Chairman Robin Hurd stepped down to concentrate on his engineering projects, and in April 1999, Firoz Kazam, you know that name from a Kazam stadium, bought Hurd's 89.9% controlling interest in Oxford United for only £1, with which he also inherited the club's estimated £15 million debt, well, is what they don't like to tell you. And Kazam reduced £9 million of the debt to just £900,000 by virtue of a company voluntary arrangement, by which unsecured creditors that owed over £1,000 were reimbursed with 10p for every pound they were owed. That is a really good business deal for those who don't know economics. Really stunning stuff. Secured creditors were paid off when Kazam sold the manor to another of his companies for £6 million. And Kazam has set about completing the unfinished stadium, gaining planning permission for a bowling alley, multiplex cinema, and a hotel next to the stadium. Following a series of legal battles which were eventually all settled, the season ended with relegation back to the second division. Oxford's poor form continued in the 1999-2000 season, and with the team in relegation zone, Shotton resigned in late October. After a few months with Mickey Lewis as a player-manager, former manager Dennis Smith returned to the club, managing a 20th place finish, 1 place clear of a relegation zone. Smith's second spell didn't last long, and was replaced by David Kemp a few weeks into the following campaign. At the end of the 2000-2001 season, Oxford were relegated back to the third division after a 35-year absence, with 100 goals conceded. They suffered 33 league defeats, and that is the second highest number of league defeats ever endured by a club in a single season. Oxford began the next season with a new manager and a new stadium, with the relocation to the Kazam Stadium completed after 6 years of speculation. Former Liverpool and England defender Mark Wright was given the manager's job, but resigned in late November after being accused of making racist remarks to referee Joe Ross. Wright's successor Ian Atkins was unable to make an immediate impact, and Oxford finished 21st position in the league, at the time their lowest ever league position. United missed out on the playoff places the following season by 1 place and 1 point. 15 wins at the start of the 2003-04 season saw Oxford top of the table at the end of January. However, Ian Atkins was sacked in March after agreeing to take charge at rivals Bristol Rovers. His replacement, Graham Ricks, could only manage a 9th place finish at the end of the season and was sacked the following November. Oxford replaced him with Argentine Ramon Diaz, who managed the team to a mid-table finish. Diaz and his team of assistants left the club at the beginning of May 2005, after being banned from the ground by the chairman following failed negotiations. During his time at the club, Diaz brought in a number of South American players, including his own sons and Juan Pablo Raponi. Ex-England midfielder and former West Bromwich Albion manager Brian Talbot signed a 2-year contract to replace Ricks. Talbot found very little success and was sacked in March 2006, with the club in 22nd place. He was replaced by youth team coach Darren Patterson. On the 21st of March 2006, Firoz Kazam sold the club, including its debts, for approximately £2 million to Florida-based businessman Nick Merry, who had played for United's youth team in the mid-1970s. Merry immediately made changes to the club, including the hiring of former manager, again for another time, Jim Smith. Or another Smith, that Jim Smith though. In his second spell, really. And despite signing 5 new players on his first day in charge, Smith was unable to prevent relegation at the end of the 2005-06 season. After 44 years in the Football League, Oxford were relegated to the Conference National after finishing in 23rd place, becoming the first former winners of a major trophy to be relegated from the league. Coincidentally, Accrington Stanley, the club whose bankruptcy in 1962 allowed United to be elected into the league, was one of the 2 clubs promoted to replace them. How fate is a weird thing. Jim Smith was retained as manager for the following season, and it started positively for Oxford with 14 wins and 8 draws from the opening 25 games. A run of 11 league games without a win followed, and United dropped to 2nd, where they remained until the last day of the season, or the end of the season really. On the Boxing Day 2006, a crowd of 11,065 watched United draw 0-0 with Woking at the Kazam Stadium. This is the largest ever attendance for a conference match if you exclude the playoffs. Oxford qualified for the playoffs by finishing 2nd, but lost on penalties in the semi-final to Exeter City. On the 9th of November 2007, Jim Smith resigned as manager, and first-team coach Darren Patterson returned as manager. In a lacklustre season, which included defeats to Droylsden and Tunbridge Angels, camouflaged by a belated run of 8 wins in the last 11 games, Oxford finished 9th in the Conference National in 2007-08, 10 points off the last playoff place. On the 2nd of October 2008, Nick Merry stepped down as the chairman to be replaced by Kelvin Thomas, who had been part of the management team at the time of Merry's takeover. Just 2 months later, Patterson was sacked after a poor run of form and was replaced by former Halifax Town manager Chris Wilder. Following Wilder's arrival, the team won 15 of the remaining 21 league games that season. A 5-point deduction for fielding an unregistered player resulted in a 7th place finish, 4 points and 2 places short of the playoffs. Oxford led the table for most of the first half of the 2009-10 season, but dropped into the playoff places after a poor run of form, finishing 3rd. They beat Rushden and Diamonds over 2 legs to advance to the playoff final against York City on the 16th of May 2010. Oxford won the final 3-1 to return to the Football League for the 2010-11 season. The attendance was 42,669, a new record for the final, with around 33,000 of them being United fans. I mean, you don't even get that at Championship games and some Premier League games. It's just absolutely mad to think that is the top of non-league football there. Oxford's first game back in the Football League was away to Burton, which finished in a 0-0 draw. Their first league win was on the 4th of September against Morecambe at the Chasm Stadium, with James Constable scoring a hat-trick in a 4-0 victory. They finished the season in 12th place. The team spent much of the 2011-12 season in or around the playoff places and achieved a double over rivals and eventual champions Swindon Town for the first time since the 1973-74 season. They failed to win any of their last 7 matches and finished the season in 9th place, 2 places and 4 points outside the playoffs. Chairman Kelvin Thomas stepped down during the 2012 close season to be replaced by owner Ian Lenigan. The 2012-13 season was blighted by injuries and patchy form. After opening the season with 3 wins and briefly heading the table, United lost their next 6 games, a pattern of inconsistency that was to continue throughout the season. United finished outside the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive season, but manager Chris Wilder was given a further 1-year contract in April 2013. Some Oxford fans were unhappy about the decision to renew Wilder's contract, having pressed for his sacking during the second half of the 2012-13 season. After another bright start, Oxford led the table several times in the first half of the 2013-14 season. On the 25th of January 2014, with the club faltering through, though still in the playoff places, Wilder resigned as manager to take up the reins at relegation-threatened Northampton. Mickey Lewis subsequently became the caretaker manager for a second time for the club. On the 22nd of March 2014, Gary Waddock was appointed as the head coach of the club after a lengthy interview process, leaving his job as head of coaching at MK Dons. Under Lewis and Waddock, Oxford slipped out of the playoff places in the final few weeks of the season, finishing a disappointing 8th in the table, 9 points off the last playoff place. In July 2014, Waddock's contract was terminated after a change of ownership, and he was replaced by Michael Appleton. Waddock's surprise sacking ensured he had the worst record of any Oxford manager, winning only once and losing 7 times in his 8 games in charge of the club. After an indifferent first season under Appleton, Oxford achieved promotion to League One in his 2nd year in charge, finishing the 2015-16 season in 2nd place with 86 points. They also reached the final of the league trophy at Wembley Stadium, only the club's 3rd appearance at the National Stadium, but were defeated 3-2 by their known League One opponents, Barnsley. In 2016-17, having sold Kemar Roof during the close season for a record £3 million and signed Marvin Johnson for an undisclosed fee, which is also thought to be a club record. Oxford finished 8th in League One, 4 points short of the playoff places, and again lost in the final of a league trophy at Wembley, this time to relegation-bound Coventry City. Appleton left the club to become an assistant manager at Leicester City of the Premier League in June 2017, and was replaced by Pep Clotet, formerly the assistant manager at Leeds United. On the 22nd of January 2018, Clotet was sacked. with the club in 10th place in League One after a home defeat to bottom club Bury. After a lengthy period under caretaker manager Derek Fazakali, or something like that, during which the team slipped within 4 points from relegation zone, Carl Robinson, former manager of Milton Keynes Dons and Charlton Athletic, was appointed on the 22nd of March 2018. Robinson had to wait 5 games for his first win, but his aim of retaining the club's League One status was achieved with 3 wins from the last 5 games of the season. The club finished 16th place on 56 points, 6 points above the relegation zone. A 12th place finish was achieved the following year, despite spending over half the season in the relegation zone. An improved 4th place finish followed in the shortened 2019-20 season, which was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. When the season was suspended, Oxford were 3rd in the table. Following an agreement from close to end the season early, the U's dropped 1 place to 4th after the final table was decided under an unweighted points per game system. The playoffs continued as normal, where United faced Portsmouth in the semi-final, and following a 1-1 draw in the first leg, United won 5-4 on penalties, when the second game also ended 1-1 after extra time. In the final behind closed doors at Wembley, Oxford lost 2-1 to Wycombe Wanderers, and Joe Jacobson's penalty proving to be decisive in the tie. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you are new around here. That would be hugely appreciated. Didn't run to a football club because I was at a baptism of my cousins and I did not realise what time I was coming back. It was light, but the time it would have taken to plan and stuff, just wouldn't be able to get there in time and the light quality to be good enough. But I should be able to do it. I mean, no promises, obviously, with the runs to football clubs. It just depends how I'm feeling on the day, to be honest. But I will hopefully be able to do the best National League transfer on Friday. And next Monday, we will have Peterborough United's history. Currently now residing in the Championship, which is obviously different to what everyone else on this league is, apart from the ones I've already done who are in the Championship. But goodbye for now.